called The Discovery of Synthetic Cooling Agents in Consumer Products Using a Rapid Screening Approach. So, this is the story that I've been trying to talk about for a while here. These synthetic cooling agents that have been proved for use since the 70s have been spreading through consumer products without anyone's knowledge. And they're being masqueraded around as flavoring ingredients when they're clearly bioactive TRPM agonists that have been designed to, cooling agents. They're called synthetic cooling agents. Specifically, the ones I'm after are these ones that are really spreading everywhere called WS3 and WS23 synthetic cooling agents. And they're basically like, they were invented, gosh, the history here. Okay, so the reason they're called WS, so WS3 and WS23, is because the original company who invented them was this company called Wilkinson Sword. Wilkinson Sword is a weapons manufacturer that is super old. They've been around since the Revolutionary War, and they are a British company that supplied bayonets to the British to fight the Americans in the Revolutionary War. Whoa, that's crazy. Okay, so then forget about that. This bayonet manufacturer, let's say they just continue making bayonets and funding wars for like ever, right? And then after World War II, when they continued funding wars in World War II, right, they find out, like, maybe this bayonet thing is not going to be working out for us. Because, if anyone knows about, World War II, that was kind of the end of the bayonet. The bayonet, they found out, oh, maybe the bayonet's not the way. You can't just run into machine gun fire with bayonets and expect something to work out for you. So Wilkinson Sword going out of business. They're like, what are we going to do? So they invent the safety razor for shaving your face. And they're like, we don't make bayonets anymore. We now make safety razors. Whoa, they're a safety razor company now. But they find out that these dull razors that they're making really hurt people's faces, and nobody wants to use them. So everyone's still using straight razors and going to the barber shop, but they want to sell safety razors like Gillette and Schick. Fast forward to the 70s, they do a high throughput screen on humans. Okay, you can't do that anymore. You can't just test random ass molecules that you've designed on humans anymore. But in the 70s, you could. Human-based screening. And so they're like, we need to design a bunch of synthetic molecules that make it so it doesn't hurt when we're shaving our faces. They can't be menthol, because menthol burns. Woo! You ever put menthol on your face after shaving, or like eucalyptus oil. Wow. Okay, so anyways, they needed stuff that would mask the pain of shaving, so what they needed was a TRPM agonist that didn't burn. Something that cooled. Cooling agent, right? And through screening, they came up with like 7 compounds. I think they actually came up with like 2,000 compounds, but 7 of them got pushed into flavors and extractives manufacturing, eventually became approved for use, and 2 of them really rose through the ranks as the ones to use. And they're called WS3, which looks a teeny bit like menthol, but it's an amine, and WS23, which looks nothing like menthol. It's just like this big branched piece of carbon, and also an amine. So it seems like these branched hydrophobic amines are what hits the cooling. And so that then became like, the thing you used. And so WS collaborated with all these companies, including Pfizer and Schick and Gillette over the years owned them, and they pushed this into cosmetics. It's okay. So it makes it so it doesn't burn when you use cosmetics. So if anything that would normally burn on your face, they'll put a cooling agent in it, and they won't tell you about it. They'll just put it in the category called flavor, because they're a flavor, and they don't have to tell you they're using them. That's the rules. Them the rules, right? So then, in like the 1974, they get approached by R.J. Reynolds. I think you guys know that guy. The tobacco company. And tobacco companies having this big problem with menthol kickback because everyone's like, you can't use menthol. Menthol causes cancer. That's pretty well known. So they're like, well, what can we use? Because cigarettes are really super harsh and they hurt. They burn. And so they get a relationship with WS, and they start putting these into menthol cigarettes and make them milder, and they start using these things in vaping products and smoking products, and so then it moves through the whole nicotine industry. So now they're using WS3, WS5, WS12, and WS23 in nicotine products, and that's how now they make, as they've moved through vapes and dips, and as I was doing all the Zyn pouches, actually was doing the Zyn pouches to look for the cooling agents. There's 3 products in the Zyn lineup that have these cooling agents, and so you can kind of almost tell, like, if it burns or not. Okay, so it's spread through the whole nicotine industry. It makes perfect sense because anything like nicotine is going to burn because it's like kind of like a toxin, right? Okay, and it makes sense in cosmetics and in shaving because the razor hurts. But then they're like, man, maybe we could start putting this into like chewing gum because people like minty chewing gum, and these are cheaper than peppermint. And peppermint oil is kind of already known to be a little carcinogenic. Because I did a story on that. It's kind of like a passive story on pullagone. Pullagone is a terpene, like a menthol-like terpene that's in peppermint oil. And if you just read about peppermint oil is like super toxic in generation here. Okay, it says, hey everyone, synthetic cooling agents are being hidden as flavors and fragrances in consumer products like shaving cream and toothpaste and mouthwash and candies and gummies, and now they're even making it into jams and jellies and juices. We'll talk about that later, etc. Okay, but then there's a big billboard on my poster, a little billboard, just to make it bigger. It says flavored tobacco targets children. And so all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, you can't do that because flavored tobacco targets children. So what does the flavors and extractive manufacturing, the companies that make these synthetic cooling agents, does? They petition the government in California and they say, we're not a flavor. We don't have a flavor. We don't impart a flavor. Therefore, we shouldn't be banned for the flavor regulations for vapes and e-cigs in California. You guys aren't considered a flavor. So now if you go into California where flavored e-cigs and vapes are banned, the only products you can find are plain or cool. Cool mint. Cooling. Chill. What are they doing? Well, they're blending together some concoction of approved synthetic cooling agents. So what this has done, this is inadvertently increase the use and proliferation of synthetic cooling agents throughout the entire marketplace. You've given this company an in. Because of tobacco, they're like, ooh, we got an in, people are okay with us. And they're like, ooh, we'll stick it into candy, we'll stick it into gum, we'll stick it into food, we'll stick it into juice, we'll stick it into jellies, we'll put it into jams, we'll put it into this. And so you just grown this whole industry on accident, which is just, nobody even knows what these things are doing. Okay, so then they're like, okay, we're not a flavor. Don't worry, we're not a flavor when it comes to tobacco, so we can still be used. And then when you go to them and say, hey, what are artificial flavors? As everybody always asks me that, what are artificial flavors? They say, sorry, we're a flavor now. We can't tell you what we are. And that's the whole point of having artificial flavors as an ingredient label, is because people say, oh, it's trademarked because it's an artificial flavor. Therefore, I can't tell you the exact secret of what's in my product. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. So if you look at a mouthwash, you've got a mouthwash right here, right? Let's read the ingredient label on a mouthwash. Let's see. Ingredients. The last ingredient is literally just the word flavor. If you guys can see that. The last ingredient literally just says the word flavor. So if it's on cosmetics ingredients or on food, and on gum, same thing on gum. Like this one's literally called mint crystals of ice breakers. The whole premise of their gum is that they're loaded with synthetic cooling agents, right? The category is literally called artificial flavor. We don't have to tell you what it is. Not allowed. So in one industry, they're saying, we're not a flavor. We must be allowed. We can't be banned. We're not a flavor. Don't look at us. Not a flavor. And then in another industry, just tangential. Right? It's like you could be considered a flavor when you're in gum without nicotine, but then you're not considered a flavor when you're in gum with nicotine.